Today's video is brought to you by Squarespace. In the photography world, the Holga is one of the classic cult cameras, known by most people for its unique image quality, full of character and flaws, and also its toy-like build quality. But recently I came across a camera that I'd never heard of before, but that shares many similarities to the Holga. Same size negative, similar size of body, same simple feature set and style of lens, and made for a similar target audience. The big difference though is that this camera was made in Japan over 2 decades earlier. And the camera that I'm talking about is this one right here. This is the Fujipet, also known as the Thunderbird camera. So one of the things I like to do every now and then is just these kind of deep dives into the film photography world, specifically looking for like interesting and unique cameras. And whenever I do this, I'm constantly surprised at how many kind of makes and models are out there that I've never heard of before. And a lot of times this is cameras that were maybe made for a short period of time or even just for a specific market. Just basically anything that catches my attention. And when I moved into the new studio here, I had this idea to start what I'm calling a collection of oddities, where I get a display case, and as I find these really kind of interesting cameras, buy them and start this collection. But on top of that, I thought it could also be fun to do this kind of companion video series for each camera, where I take it, I go and shoot some film with it, and then I talk about its history as well. So wanted to kick things off today with the Fujipet. This is the first addition to the collection, and I thought it would be a really great way to get this started. So I came across the Fujipet a few weeks ago when I was doing one of those eBay deep dives, and I was immediately intrigued by this thing for a few reasons. And first off was the name of it. You know, it's a camera that I had never heard of before, I knew nothing about. But beyond that, it was really the styling, you know, this viewfinder on top and just the look of it. And then also the specs of the camera, kind of lack thereof. It immediately reminded me of kind of like a nicer looking, probably better built Holga. And it turns out that the Fujipet was actually only ever available in the Japanese market, which is probably why it's not that common nowadays. And like I said at the start, this is a camera that came quite a bit before the Holga, almost 25 years to be exact. So the Fujipet was first released in 1957, and they sold it all the way up till 1963. There were 2 versions of it. So there's this first one here with the very interesting top viewfinder. But then the second model, they changed the look of it a bit, and they actually added in a meter and an automatic aperture selection. But the idea was kind of the same as the Holga. So it was meant to be a camera that's very accessible, very straightforward and easy to use. Anyone could pick it up and make photographs, and it really didn't require, much involvement when it comes to operation. So just like the Holga, the Fujipet is a 6x6 camera, and it's often referred to as a toy camera just because of its kind of simplistic design and lack of features. The lens on it is a simple meniscus design, which started as a glass lens and later was made of plastic, which is what my camera has. And it's a little bit longer than the Holga's, being a 70mm instead of 60mm. And the camera only has 1 shutter speed. From what I read, it's hard to kind of find information about this, but it's likely a 60th of a second. And then you do have the option to shoot in bulb mode if you want to get a little wild as well, although there is no cable release socket. Other than that, when it comes to exposure control, there's actually 3 aperture selections you can choose from. So f11, f16, and f22. And then the lens itself is fixed focus. So unlike the Holga, which is a zone focusing lens, with this one, you can't select anything. And then the only other feature that this has is a cold shoe on top, and then it actually has a flash sync socket on the bottom of the lens. But yeah, very straightforward and easy to use. So you would take this, obviously your film's loaded, frame up your scene with the very basic viewfinder, and then when you're ready to shoot, you would select your aperture, or even easier, you would use your little icon on the side here, a sun, shade, or cloud, and then simply cock the shutter using lever labeled number 1, and then fire the shutter with label number 2. I will say though, even though the Fujipet shares kind of similar specs to the Holga, The look of it and the build quality sets it apart. You know, the styling, like I said, it's one of the things that caught my attention right away. I absolutely love how it looks, you know, much nicer in my opinion, especially with this top viewfinder, which make people refer to this as the Thunderbird camera, but also just the build quality of it. So it actually has an aluminum base and top plate. The tolerances seem much tighter, and it's just something where you don't feel like you're going to have to go and tape up all of the seams in fear of having light leaks. But, you know, the more I thought about it, with a toy camera and the reason for shooting one of these, I actually don't know if that's a bonus or not. You know, the reality is what makes the Holga so iconic and so fun to use is it's something that you pick up to kind of embrace its extreme flaws, from light leaks to extreme edge softness. It's not something where you're looking for perfection. And when it comes to cost, you know, with this being a somewhat rare camera, it's definitely on the expensive side. So most ones that I could find on eBay are going for at least £100, oftentimes more. Some of the rare colors that were available are going for like over £300, which I think is crazy. I managed to pick this one up for £60, which I didn't think was too bad. But I would say accessibility and price is always going to be a huge factor with this camera. But how did it perform? So last week I took this down to the south coast here in England and shot 4 rolls of black and white through it. Honestly, had a ton of fun and was actually quite impressed by the results. And I'm going to show you those in a second, but before we do that, just have to take a quick break here to talk about the sponsor today, which is Squarespace. So I've been using Squarespace for the past 5 years now for my own photography website, and what I love is how easy it is to build, maintain, and upgrade a professional looking site. As an example, if you're looking to build one of your own, you can get started with one of their pre-made templates or even use something like their blueprint builder. And from there, they have an endless list of tools that help you grow your site with your business. Things like a wide variety of gallery styles to choose from, where you can simply click and drag to reorder and rearrange images. You can also add something like an online shop if you want to sell prints, books, and other things like that. Or even add a blog where you can start writing as a different way to connect with your audience. So check out squarespace.com today, sign up for a free 14-day trial, and when you're ready to launch, you can use my link below to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. All right, so I just got down here to one of my favorite places. This is on the south coast here in England. It's a place called Hastings. You've probably seen me visit this place before, but it's, yeah, so many details packed in such a small area. You could shoot here for hours and never run out of things. So I figured it's a good spot to come and test out the Fujipet. And I got my first roll loaded in, some Ilford HP5. I did this back in the office just to make sure that everything was working before I drove a couple hours down here. But we're good to go. Got the red window taped up, just in case. We'll start shooting. Okay, so one roll through the Fujipet. It was a quick one. Kind of blasted through it as a way to get things rolling, and also while the light's kind of not the greatest. Super weird weather. Got here, it was like downpour. I had to sit in my car for 45 minutes, and now it's like pure blue sky. So the light should be getting nicer in a couple hours, but got through one. Very, very, very curious to see what this is going to be like. But it worked. It's wound on the take-up spool. And it actually seems nice and tight on there, which is good. Fun little camera though. You know what's interesting? So it has this little pop-out lens hood here, which is crooked right now. But looking at this lens, it actually looks like it's coated. You can see some kind of purple and blue coating on it. So I mean, I don't know how much that's gonna help it. It's still just a meniscus, very simple meniscus lens, but we'll see. See how it compares to the Holga. But I'm gonna load another. That was HP5. We'll go Kentmere for this one. Very curious how accurate or not accurate this viewfinder is going to be. All right, so I made a move on the road, just finished my second rollback in Hastings, but I got about an hour and a half left of light, and I figured I would head down the coast here a little bit and just kind of freewheel it. I'll say though, you know, just like with the Holga, one of the things that's so fun about these kind of, I guess you could call them toy cameras, is there ain't much to the shooting experience, which is a nice change at times. Don't have to worry about focus. Obviously you have some aperture selections you can make with this camera, but you know, it's not like you're not using one of these looking for perfect exposure. So it's a very laid back, accept the limitations and flaws kind of experience, which for me is a very nice thing every now and then. So having fun. Be curious to see how these look. So I gotta say, I really enjoyed shooting with this camera, and honestly, it's just so much fun to go and do stuff like this every now and then. And last year I actually did a video shooting with a Holga for the first time, really enjoyed that as well. But I will say, after seeing the results from the Fujipet, you know, as much as they share kind of a similar feature set, and you know, as much as the Fujipet images still have character and a certain look to them, the Holga's on a different level when it comes to that. So again, both cameras have a simple meniscus style lens, and the Fujipet images that I shot, I'd say are actually decently sharp in the center. And while the sharpness falls off and there's softness that's noticeable in the corners and sides of the frame, the Holga's frame in comparison almost looks like it has a circular blur around the entire image. It's quite extreme. And not only that, but the Holga has this very kind of pronounced distortion to the frame, much more than the Fujipet. So both cameras are still very much toy cameras and have a lot of character and a specific look, but the Fujipet is much less in your face compared to the Holga. I also wanted to mention that none of the 4 rolls I shot had any light leaks whatsoever. So yeah, tolerances and build are certainly tighter. So even though I love how this camera looks and just kind of the history behind it and the fact that it's quite rare, I think considering the rarity and the price of it and the fact that if I were going to shoot with a toy camera, I'd want something where I can kind of get like maximum character, maximum flaws. This is something that I think is going to be more of a shelf piece, you know, the perfect addition to kick off this collection or this case of oddities, but not something that I think I'd ever reach for over something like the Holga, where I go out and just kind of embrace everything that has to offer. But yeah, regardless, still really fun to find this camera, buy it, shoot some film with it, and just learn about the history. And I think it'll be a worthy addition to kick off this new collection. So yeah, anyways, hope you enjoyed this video about the Fujipet. And other than that, just want to say, as always, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.